high achiever, then you probably know that you have something in common with other high achievers. You don't like to ask for help. I mean, you're superhero, right? You can do it all anyway. So why do we need to be vulnerable and ask for help? Well, today I have a guest joining us who's going to share with us maybe some more provocative ways to look at asking for help and some of the other pitfalls that us high achievers fall prey to. Hi, I'm Melanie Benson Strick, and I'm known as a optimizer and a profit strategist for thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and visionaries who want to create a really big impact in the world. And this show is dedicated to helping you power up your results from the inside out. And today I want to introduce you to my friend Rich Litvin. Now, Rich runs a boutique advisory firm for world leaders and thought leaders based in Los Angeles and London. He is an expert at taking high achievers to the greatest levels of success. And ultra successful people who you may not assume would need a coach, are the ones who actually call Rich. So his clients include Olympic athletes, presidential candidates, Hollywood film directors, special forces operatives, and serial entrepreneurs. So you can imagine how excited I am that he's carved out some time to come and chat with us today. So just a little bit more, Rich is the founder of a company called 4PC, which is a community of top 4% coaches and entrepreneurs. And members of this extraordinary group include seven-figure business owners, a consultant to the White House, a coach to leaders at the World Bank, and the CEO of a wolf sanctuary. And a thought leader in the coaching world, Rich is author of the highly acclaimed book, The Prosperous Coach, which is one of my favorite books that every coach should read, or anybody who coaches should read. So, Rich, thanks so much for being here. And I had to say, as I was reading your bio, because I didn't even know some of that, I would love to be a fly on the wall in that room and hear how a consultant to the White House thinks and what happens in those conversations between someone like that and someone who is a coach, right? It's just such a great amalgamation of minds and coming together to really create more good things in the world. So
for me, Melanie, being surrounded by extraordinary people is one of the things I've sought out all my life. Initially, it was just in me, and now I do it very consciously. And now I create communities like that. They say for the 5 people you spend most time with.
Yeah.
Well, I consciously create extraordinary people around me, people who challenge the way that I think, people who think differently to me.
Yeah, and as a coach, I noticed that you have a really unique, I think, in the industry way of integrating vulnerability and not having all the answers with very powerful insights and wisdom that causes you to think very, very differently. And I think that's the trademark of a really amazing coach.
Yeah, well, when you work with extraordinary top performers, you can't know their world better than them. I have coached Olympic athletes and presidential candidates and a man in the British Special Forces. There's no way I would ever be able to do what they do better than them. I'm not a consultant. But it doesn't matter who you are. That guy who was a British Special Forces operative, I worked with him on his biggest fear. Now, he'd been to places that would scare the shit out of you and me. He'd done things that we just couldn't dream of doing. He was afraid, his next stage reinventing his career, he was afraid of sales. So it doesn't matter who you are. There's something that you can't see. There's some block for you, some limitation. And the reason I call my group 4PC, I'm looking for the 4%, the tiniest area. When you work with really extraordinary people, the mistake is to think, oh no, let's go back. When you are a top performer, the challenge you often have inside of you is you think you should be giving 40%, 50% more. You just constantly this feeling of I'm not giving enough. Or the guilty secret we often carry is I'm getting all this acclaim from all the people around me, but if only they knew, I'm not really working that hard. It doesn't take a lot to create the things I'm creating, and yet everyone's admiring me. And we carry that like a guilty secret.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, I knew you'd relate. It's that feeling we have. But actually, it's just a sign that when you work with your gifts, things are effortless. And so working with a high achiever, they come into me thinking, I need your help to do that another 40% capacity I've got. And I help them look at what's the 4% shift that's going to have everything transformed.
Yeah, and I love the way you look at that, because I think a lot of times we think, oh, I've got it all done. I can conquer anything. I can do anything. And you forget there's always that that space to go deeper into your genius, because most of us don't actually live there. We do the things that are kind of the easy things to access on a regular basis, but it takes someone helping us like really move into that, we might call it the edge, or it's like that zone of real genius. It's often in your blind spot. Would you agree?
Yeah, my wife is an amazing jazz singer, and she used to get home from a gig and say how bad it had gone.
Mm.
And I'd say, hang on a second, forget what you think about it. What did they say? And she'd say, oh, they said it was amazing. When you're a high performer, what gets you to that level of success is being hypercritical. So she'd get one note wrong and be full of self-judgment. They didn't even notice. Or even if they were a jazz musician at that level, they understand that's what happens. So it's part of our gift, and it's also what holds us back at the same time. And that's why I love working with top performers, because I'm working on the very gifts that have got you to where you are today, precisely what's going to hold you back from what's truly possible.
That is so true. So maybe we could share the story of how you became the guy. I like to think of you as the guy because I don't know a lot of people who do what you do, who high achievers are turning to.
Interesting. I've never been asked that question that way before. I think partly because it's always been me. I've just, whatever I've put my attention on, I've made things happen. It's just who I am. I got coached a few years ago when I became an entrepreneur. I used to be a high school teacher. I was on a fast track to be I was a vice principal, fast track to be a head teacher in London. And I was getting some coaching around my fears around money. Maybe 10 years ago now. I was an entrepreneur for the first time, didn't know what I was doing, was worried about money running out. And the coach said to me, Rich, what I get about you is if all your fears came true and the money really did run out, I'd give you about 2 weeks and you'd be running the shelter that you'd be living in. And I just got it. It was like he'd nailed me. I mean, leadership is in me. It's just, so playing at that level of always pushing myself, it didn't come from a healthy place.
Mm.
I was driven to prove myself to my father. I found out 18 months ago, really, when he passed away, that I didn't really need to be doing that. But it took me a lifetime to get to that place. So I wasn't driven from a healthy place, but I have always been driven to high levels of success. So those are my people. I see the little secrets inside us that we carry. I coached a man who managed $1 billion of assets, and his friends were at presidential level. I mean, he hung out in the highest level, the amount of money he had, the places he would go. And yet, the secret he carried, he was an immigrant, born as an immigrant to the United States, and carried this fear deep down inside of him that he didn't fit in. It didn't matter how much money he had, who he hung out with, until he addressed that deep, deep, deep fear that he didn't fit in, nothing would ever be enough. And I see that in these people. I see where people are powerful because I felt powerless for most of my life. And so it's just one of my gifts has come from my struggle. And then I work, the way I put it is I help powerful people to remember just how powerful they are.
So I want to dig a little deeper into this because, first of all, learning what your genius is and really making your business about that is something that not everybody does. Like, not everybody recognizes what their real genius is. So I love that you found that and that you've built this business around it. But you didn't just build a business around it. You actually built a thriving, a financially successful business. A really, you have an amazing authority in our marketplace. And I would imagine there might have been a couple of things that really helped you be not just a everyday coach who struggles with money coming in and out, but really someone who's built something that is working.
So many different answers I can give to this. Look, I'll give you one distinction.
Okay.
Around giving and service. I built a business around serving people. When you put your attention on really serving others in an extraordinary way, it just comes back to you. But then it began to dawn on me, there are business people who are coming from that place of giving and they're completely drained and wiped. And the others who come from a place of giving and it helps them thrive. So I spent a long time looking at the distinctions between the givers who succeed and the givers who struggle. Adam Grant wrote a book called Give and Take. And he says there are 3 types of people in life. There are the givers, there are the takers, and there are the matchers. Well, I'll give you this if you give me something in return. Have you read that book?
No, I've never heard of it. That's brilliant, though, those distinctions.
So who do you think would be the most successful at business and in life? The givers, the takers, or the matchers?
I actually think it's the givers.
And who do you think would be the least successful in life? The givers, the takers, or the matchers?
I personally think it's the matchers because there's always an energetic drain if they don't get that match back.
This is where it gets interesting. The people who are most successful in life are the givers. The people who are least successful in life are the givers.
Oh, okay.
So for me, it was getting clear on what does distinguish those of us who come from a place of service. What you're doing right now, putting this stuff out into the world, right? This is really serving people, giving value to people. You want to be successful in business, find a way to give people value. One of the things I've found is giving my all versus giving it all. When I show up here, I'm going to give you absolutely everything I can, give my all. But giving it all, I get asked to do interviews all the time. I turn lots of them down because I've got to protect my energy. And so I have a filter. I have a filter for the kind of people I want to work with. So I protect my energy. I won't spend time with takers. Very quickly, I filter out the takers from my life. I'm okay with spending time with a matcher. Sometimes you'll give something to me, I give something to you, or another giver. That's great. But I'll filter out the takers first of all. I also set a really high bar for who I want to spend time with. It's hard early on in business to do this, but the quicker you get to do this, the quicker you rise to levels of success. Turning away anybody who I have a distinction I call hell yes or hell no. If you're not a hell yes, I have to call you hell no. There's nothing in between. There's no such thing as hell maybe, right?
Right.
But we say maybe all the time. Maybe I'll meet you for coffee. Maybe the client will say to us, hey, I'd like to work with you. Let me get back to you. I say to them, let's call that a no. Let's call it what it is. It's a no. It might be a no for now, but let's call it a no so there's no energy kind of being pulled and tugged in all different directions. Right. So that's some of what I've done around creating a great business. Zone of Genius, I mean, that comes from Gay Hendricks' books. Mm-hmm. Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, talks about, what does he call it? He's got another name for Zone of Genius. But when you're in your zone of genius, you're doing the thing that only you can do. So in my team, we've worked out for every one of us what our zone of genius is. And we also have an avoid at all costs list. So my zone of genius is doing three things. It's coaching, it's creating, and it's spending time with extraordinary people. It wasn't hard to say hell yes to you because you're one of the extraordinary people I like to spend time with.
Thank you.
Those three things, that's it. My team, their mission is to stop me doing anything else.
I love that.
For each of them, I have Sarah on my team. She builds a roadmap for our business and puts the people and the resources into place to help the business grow. Everything else we take away from it. So in our avoid at all costs list.
That's a great way to do it, by the way. And I think it's almost like it's this utopia of ideals in a way for a lot of us. It's like, God, I would love to be there. But when you operate at this level, you have to, because the cost of not doing it is far too great. And it kind of want to lead into that core concept today of being someone who is a high achiever and the kind of I don't know, it's almost like this quagmire we create for ourselves of, hey, I'm so high functioning that I can really pull off anything. Like I can figure out how to do anything. I can do it all, but should I do it all? And how support plays into that. So I'm curious for you, how do you figure out well, maybe you just told me, but how do you go a little bit deeper into the roadblocks of there's something you really should get off your plate, but you're not?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I just held up, I don't need help. It's the title of the book I'm writing right now about high performers. One of the things that makes us super successful is we can do everything better than anybody we know.
Yes.
And it's what's got you here won't get you there. There came a moment when I realized I can keep doing all this stuff at this level, and I'll be constrained from getting what's truly possible for me. One of the hardest ones is email, right? Giving my email over to somebody else to open and to handle. What we don't realize in this day and age, if you run a business from your email inbox, that's the equivalent of 20 years ago running a business from the mail room.
That's a good one.
So finding a way to get everything off my plate. I tell my team, I do not want us to be known as a business that answers emails quickly. I see all this software online to help you respond in 30 seconds, put this little thing on your website that can in real time. I'm not interested in that. What I tell my team is, I want to be known as a business built around a principle of client astonishment. We will go the extra mile to astonish you in how we show up and how we serve you and how we put our attention on you and how we get to know you. But answering emails quickly, I don't care. And even I'm going to a level beyond that where if you're not our people, we might not even respond to you. I've got resources out there on my site you can look at, you can read, you can learn a lot of stuff from what I teach and so on. But it doesn't mean I have to. Somebody rings my front doorbell. Sometimes I peek through the little hole and I don't answer. Sometimes I call through the door and say, can I help you? To find out what they want. Sometimes I'll open the door a crack and sometimes I'll say, come in. But I have choice. And I want to run a business that way. That my business isn't run by who's coming through the door. I open the door to everybody and I have to respond. The door is closed and I'm seeking out the extraordinary people who I want to spend time with.
I love that. That's such a great way to look at it. And, it's funny, I've worked with people around their relationship with email for so long, and I've never, ever heard anybody put it the way you just did, that analogy to whether or not you're going to open the door and that you're starting your business in the mailroom. But it is true. And so what I'm hearing you say is that many of us have to change our perspective. It's almost like we have to upgrade the paradigm in which we're viewing our world from. If we want to achieve more, if we want to continue to grow as high achievers, we got to get the stuff off our plate that someone else could do. But it doesn't have to be us.
I remember saying we had a woman helping us with childcare a year or so back. She did some childcare, she did some cleaning. And I sat down with her one day just to talk to her and I said, are you happy doing what you're doing? And she said, oh my God, Rich, I love this. There's nothing I like more than tidying somebody's home. She said, I can't help it. I go in somebody's house and I straighten the pictures. And I love children. And so whatever it is that is not your thing, there'll be something that somebody else loves to do. If you could step out of the way, I'm building a team where people love to do. I've got a bookkeeper who loves bookkeeping. That blows my mind. But she does. And so it's fantastic to have her on the team. Yeah. I want to surround myself by people who love what they do.
Yeah, I think this is the best way to work. So what else would be on the pitfall list as high achievers that can we get in our own way by not recognizing them?
We're visionaries, right? Mm-hmm. We dream really, really big. So a number of problems come from that. A number of benefits, right? We dream so big, that's how we create extraordinary things in life. But, so here's a couple. We dream so big that we inspire everyone around us. We enroll clients, we enroll team members, people want to be part of our mission. And then there's this gap between where we play up here and translating it for the people in our team. I find this to my cost. I have to learn to come down 3 or 4 levels of abstraction so I can talk and say, this is what it would look like. This is how I want you to. So what I said to you is very high level. I don't want to run a business from my email inbox. But I've got to train a team member then to understand what that means. I have a principle I call slow down to speed up. That really serves me in life. Yes. Taking time to reflect on things, right? But if I just say it to my team, slow down to speed up, what does that mean? They work at half speed. I really train them in what that distinction means, where it's relevant, and what. So there's the gift of being a visionary, and how you translate that to your team members is an important one to see. Again, it's your very gift. So what can hold you back?
Yeah, and that's a great way to put it. As a matter of fact, my very first coach taught me slow down to speed up. And when he first said that to me, I have no idea what that means. It was so out of my realm of what I thought should be said. But over the years, it's really served me well, and I've passed that on to many people. And it's true. Like, we have to learn how to take the speed that we operate at and translate it to the people who, if we've done a good job hiring support teams, they're not thinking the way we think. They're thinking in opposite ways and in complementary ways. So we have to help make sure our ideas and visions make sense to the people who process the world differently than we do. That was the hardest thing for me to do, is figure out how to slow down my way of operating so that my team wasn't frustrated with me and wasn't imploding all the time.
Yes. Yeah. We're visionary. I have idea after idea after idea. And I realized I throw them at my team and they get overwhelmed.
Yes.
They'd be excited in the first call with me, and then they get overwhelmed. My Sarah, who's on my team, can't stand it if I go on a long car journey because I call her up with about a dozen ideas. And
Yes.
I've trained her, though. I've said, because I'm really clear, I don't want yes people on my team. I reward my people for challenging me. I literally reward them. I sent people flowers before for bringing an opposite point of view, for telling me I'm wrong. So I'll come up with an idea, and she's learned to say, okay, let me hear it, let me write it down, and then we'll talk about it another time.
Yes.
So that's another important thing. What got you here is being such a visionary, having so many ideas. It doesn't mean you have to implement all of them. And it doesn't mean you even have to say all of them to your team, because they can get overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's almost like you need and this is something that I've been teaching people for years, like you need a process of what to do with all the ideas so that you don't just jump into bright, shiny object syndrome and start throwing resources at them. You actually have to filter them in some way so that you know, are they really actionable, and are they actionable now, or should they maybe be down the road? Just because it's come into your mind doesn't mean you're supposed to take action. And I think highly creative people, they haven't really strengthen that muscle yet. So that's where the coaches kick in for you, is training you to be a more powerful version of your best self, and not just, kind of getting in your own way all the time.
There's a nice distinction. There's a little book called Rocket Fuel that distinguishes between visionaries and implementers. And again, to get to the next level, you want to have implementers on your team. When you put your vision out there, people who take up the mantle and go, okay, we're going to turn this into a reality. We're going to I make stuff up, they make stuff happen. And so how are they going to turn this into reality? What are they going to do? And then how can I play with them along that to tell them, well, these are my parameters. I have a real bias for things looking beautiful. So if we're going to create a website, you need to understand how I like things to look so it feels good when I see it. You don't have to waste time creating something that meets your criteria, doesn't fit mine. A lot of training goes into creating an extraordinary team. Yes. I spend a lot of time. And I have the benefit, I'm a coach. I'm constantly coaching my team members. And I tell them the moment they arrive, I say, look, only two things are going to happen. At some point, you're going to grow so much by working with me, because I'm going to really put all my attention on helping you succeed, that you're going to want to go off and do your own thing or work with somebody else. Or you're going to grow so much that you love being here, and you constantly grow and you want to stay but keep growing. And I'm okay with either. My job is to keep serving you and supporting you so you grow, which means that even when somebody leaves, it's rarely on hard feelings. It's from this place of they've grown so much they're ready to fly, but I've been there for them. So they are there for me even after they've left.
That's beautiful. I'm kind of curious now, because you are you're one of those people that just kind of, you disperse wisdom. It's like, every conversation we've ever had, I've kind of gone, okay. It's like I learn something every time I spend time with you, but I know you've gotten here through your own journey of hard knocks and learning and growing. So what was the hardest thing for you to do that ended up making the biggest positive impact?
The first thing that comes to mind, it was hard to do, but it was just over 18 months ago when my father passed away. And it was a really challenging time for me, personally, emotionally. And I spent about 8 months where I had no energy to build the business. I still had energy to work with my current clients. That gives me energy. But to build a business takes a lot of energy.
Yes.
And I had no energy. And our savings went down. Monica and I joked that the two savings accounts we promised we wouldn't touch was our two little boys. And there came a point when they had more savings than we did. And yeah, I knew I've got no energy. I cannot go out in the world to create more business. I can't do it right now. And I had enough trust in myself that when I was ready, it would kick back in again. And it has. And things have taken off again since I've been ready the last few months. But I had 8 months where I just really needed to draw in. And I think it's one of the things that people forget. We think success is here. So people would say to me, oh, you've become successful. No, success isn't a destination, right? It is the journey. It never stops. Especially if you're creative. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You always want to be creating and making stuff that has value in the world and serving people. So for me, it's understanding that I'm learning, let's say I've learned, these are the waves of life and the waves of business. And hopefully that curve, it's kind of a line going up to that, but the waves are still there on the line. What can I do to be ready for when the challenges occur? There are going to be things that happen that mean I haven't got energy or time to put into the business. There's going to be times when things happen in the economy or who knows what it is. What have I got in place for that? Whether it's team members, savings accounts, diversifying where either my business is or what my investments are. But what am I doing to make sure that it's not just me, and if I stop, everything else slows down? Especially if you're an entrepreneur, because you're the business as the leader. If you're wiped, if you're exhausted, everything can stop. How do you create a business where, as much as you can still be in that leading role, there are things in place to support it that don't always need you in that space?
Yeah. And that's really the definition of a business.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could see why that would be challenging, is like really kind of finding that space of how do I build, or how does the business continue to build when I am not in the energy to build it?
It's really challenging. It took me, 4 or 5 years ago to realize I'm just a really, really expensive freelancer. I would call myself a business person. I'd say I'm an entrepreneur, but I wasn't. I was a very expensive freelancer.
Yeah.
I had great revenue and income, but if I stopped doing anything, everything stopped. So I'm looking at ways I'm still in that inquiry of what I want to do. I'm clear I don't want to create I want a lifestyle business. I work 3 days a week and 3 weeks a month. I take at least 2 months off a year. I'm going to, on my calendar, I'm going to London soon. I've just been to London to see my mum and going with the family soon. I like my lifestyle. It's really important to me. Some weeks I work on a Monday and a Friday, but I don't have to. Some weeks I work the first week of a month, but I don't have to. So that's more important to me. My lifestyle comes first. When I'm coaching a client who runs a business, we map out their lifestyle first, and then we put the business around the edges.
Yes. Well, a lot of people don't even think about their lifestyle until they're too busy to fit it in, and they're focused on money or achievement instead of life.
Well, how many people do we know, maybe ourselves included, right, where we leave the corporate world or working in an organization to be our own boss, only to discover that this boss sitting in this seat is the toughest boss they've ever worked for.
Exactly.
Because this boss won't ever let us switch off. At 10 o'clock at night, you sneak into the office, you open the laptop, you're sitting in bed checking emails, which you wouldn't even do that if you're working for an organization. So learning to actually tell yourself to switch off, that distinction of working on your business, not working in your business.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever told you this when we've had some of our chats, but for the last 10 years, I've lived that. I'm done at 6 unless I'm giving a speech or have to be out somewhere. I don't check my emails at night. That's like one of my hard, fast rules. I do not check email between 5 or 6 when I'm done for the day, and 8:30 or 9 when I get in the next morning. I just don't, because it turns me back on. Like, it turns the business brain back on, and then I'm not recharging. I'm not relaxing anymore. And I typically don't work weekends, and I almost always take Fridays off. I might work on a project, but I don't have appointments. And it's amazing how much calmer, how much more enjoyable my life is, and how much better I am at prioritizing when I really keep to that schedule.
Yeah,
I think it's about choices.
2 little boys made me switch off on weekends.
Yeah.
Weekends are family time. I don't work past 5 p.m. It's family time. I have to be out there with my boys, and I want to be. And so, that was a gift to me.
Yes. Totally. Children will help you prioritize quickly if you're present to that.
Yeah. Well, but people always say, right, they say, if only I had more time. No, sometimes less time is what you need, because then you have to get really focused.
Absolutely agree, 100%. One of the things I do is when people tell me they're overwhelmed, I'm like, the first thing you have to do is you actually have to create some space in your calendar. And they're like, it kind of combusts them at first. They're like, how do I put space in when I'm already so crazy full? Yes, exactly. You're always operating at crazy full, so you have a paradigm of overwhelm. And it really does work, because the moment you start to commit to having space, you have to use the time in the office much more effectively.
Yeah, my calendar's on the wall. You can't see it here, but I plan out the white space first. Mm-hmm. I'm doing it already for 2017. I'm planning out when is the free time that I have, and I'm training my team to help me with that, because I struggle sometimes. Although I say I take Fridays off, it's easy to slip into the office and say I'll answer an email and come out 3 hours later.
Right.
If you have a job that you love, it makes it really hard to switch off, because you're going to convince yourself, well, I'm making a difference, I love this work. So I'm realizing I have to schedule things on my time off, like a hike with a friend, where there's something I have to do with somebody else, frees me up to get out of the office. So I'm doing more of that, and having my team actually do it for me.
Because there has to be something of value to us to be more pulling, like it has to be the magnet that keeps us from doing the other thing we love and value so much.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. And it sounds like that's also another pitfall that high achievers can fall into, is because we love what we do so much, it can consume us unless we become very conscious and intentional about the space we create for our work time and our playtime.
Very true. It comes back to that distinction at the beginning, giving my all versus giving it all. If you give it all because you have a passion project, that sounds wonderful, but at some point you're going to be drained and there'll be nothing left to give. If you give your all in the moment when you're giving, and then when you're out of it, you give your all to playing or resting or relaxing, that really serves you.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. So, Rich, you obviously are an amazing asset for entrepreneurs who want to achieve more, thought leaders, visionaries, extraordinary people out there. What is a resource we can share with our audience so they can get more connected to you?
Probably the first thing to go to is 4pc.expert. 4PC is my community of extraordinary coaches and leaders. I hesitated because the website's still not quite finished, but there's enough there that there are resources there and information there. We're creating a scorecard around exponential success. I'm really fascinated by this concept of what does it take to get out of, most people are in struggle, but beyond struggle, there's conventional success. And so we head on this path up to the top. And then we realize, I think it was Lily Tomlin said, the trouble with the rat race is if you win it, you're still a rat. Yeah. And Stephen Covey said, you follow the ladder of success and you get to the top to discover it's leaning against the wrong wall. And then there's exponential success. The people who are doing things in big and extraordinary ways, those are my people. Those people interest me. So very soon we'll have a scorecard on the website where you can actually assess yourself in your ways of thinking that take you to the next level of success, or show you that you're in that game, in which case you and I should have a conversation. So 4pc.expert or richlitvin.com, 2 places that you can find me online.
Great. And I'd love to mention your book, The Prosperous Coach, because I have to say, if you do coaching of any kind, it is a fantastic book to help you recognize how to really build a coaching business that is thriving financially. And there's some great truths in that book that can really set you on a better path. So what's the best place for them to get that? On Amazon, or is that on your website?
Amazon. I mean, it's a book based on old-fashioned principles that you build a business one relationship at a time. And I still apply those principles now at building a business. It's principles my grandparents used when they had a little store in the underground station in Waterloo in London. And it's still, it's how you build any successful business, one conversation, one relationship at a time.
It's beautiful. Rich, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today and really creating a spark and I would say some very powerful inspiration to really look at how we're showing up as high achievers and how is it translating to actually making a real difference in the people we want to serve. So thanks for being here. I know you're very picky about where you come and talk and play. So thank you.
I am. And it speaks to you, Melanie, what I think of you. You were a hell yes immediately you asked.
Oh, thank you. I know. I was like, God, we got a yes right away. That's awesome. So I'd love to hear from you, too, as you're listening in today. Head on over to the show page at melaniebensonstrick.com. You can type in high achievers if you don't see Rich's interview right at the top of the page. Let us know what's an aha or something that you can put into action from today's show. And please be sure to pop in and get Rich's resource. It's going to be extraordinarily valuable for you in getting your mind and your business to operate at much higher levels of effectiveness in the world. So thanks, everybody. See you again next week.